There are so many stories. Every family has one. How they cared for a loved one in the waning days of their life. The question is, did you talk about their wishes in advance? Or did you have to guess what they really wanted?
I could not believe more strongly how important it is for families to have these conversations. It was for my own family. It is for every family.
It's shocking, but studies show that while most of us believe it's important to talk about end-of-life care with our loved ones, few of us actually take that crucial step.
My dad was a pretty quiet person. We never talked about what we would do in the case of a terminal illness because it was difficult to broach tough topics with him.
Brandon Hidaka was studying at the University of Kansas Medical School when his father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. Brandon initially wanted to be the hero who would cure his dad's cancer through diet, but that was not compatible with his dad's understanding of the gravity of his condition.
I eventually realized that my dad didn't need me as his doctor. He already had an amazing doctor, and that he really just needed me as his son.
The lack of end-of-life planning created challenges for the Hidaka family as they struggled with Paul Hidaka's illness.
We were going to deal with whatever happened in the future, but let's not talk about it. And so it felt like we were just kind of lurching from one acute problem to another.
In the midst of it all, the family focused on honoring Paul's wish to participate in his youngest son's graduation from high school, his middle son's graduation from college, and Brandon's wedding. He made it to all of those events before slowly slipping away.
Kind of just sat down with him and told him that it's going to be okay, that, that we're going to be okay, and that it's going to be okay for him to let go.
Terry and Richard Payne were blessed with knowing what their loved ones wanted. Over the course of several decades, the Paynes cared for Terry's parents and Richard's aunt.
Decision-making for us was easy because our parents took the right steps at the right times.
Those steps included having an elder care attorney help the family draft advance directives, spelling out the end-of-life care Terry's parents wanted, based on their values and wishes. This was a godsend as her mom developed Alzheimer's.
Whenever someone else would get sick or would die or have a trajectory of their own towards death, we opened the conversation again about what she'd want.
We were able to avoid a lot of acute medical interventions because we had a really good sense of what was going on and what she would want.
Even with documents in order, ongoing conversations are key.
As tough as it is, you really need to do a suppose this happens kind of conversation, because I don't think the documents have been as helpful as those conversations and knowing the people in our lives.
Lots of people have tragedy in their lives that can be defining moments. Not everyone makes it. A lot of people never get by the hit that they take.
Sam Mears knows tragedy well, but for him, tragedy strengthened his resolve. Within 30 devastating days, Sam's infant son Michael and wife Rhonda were both diagnosed with cancer.
So there's this myriad of emotions and hopes and dreams that are dashed in an instant.
Sam and Rhonda questioned their sanity as they juggled the responsibilities of everyday life, raising a healthy daughter and managing two complex medical situations.
The conversations that we had along the way were, will this get both of them? And what would it be like if it did?
Shortly after Michael passed away, Rhonda's prognosis deteriorated.
We mapped everything out and we put everything in order. It's an acknowledgement of, all right, well, this isn't going to end well, so let's figure out what we need to do to make sure that it goes forward well.
Rhonda assured Sam that he and their daughter Catherine would be fine. That affirmation gave him solace, Indeed, after Rhonda's death, he met and married Julie, and Julie accepted Catherine as her own.
When Julie and I were dating, one of the conversations we had was, what happens if something bad happens? So that was a good conversation, and we both walked away from it feeling, that we would be good partners in that kind of situation.
Death and the process of dying is sad, but it's part of life.
We're here to enjoy the time that we have, so acknowledge, what that time was like, honor their memory, and keep moving.
Rita Carney has lived a full life and isn't afraid of what comes next.
I'm looking forward to this because I keep thinking, it's my opportunity to see the Lord. This is what it's all about.
On Rita's 88th birthday, the family talked about her end-of-life wishes. It was a conversation she already had with her son, John.
I thought at the time that she was also sharing that with my sisters. And I came to find out at the birthday party that they didn't know anything. So Mom then had about an hour with us at the end of the party, and you pretty much told everybody what you wanted. It was wonderful. It wasn't sad, it wasn't morbid. It was a blessing, I think, for everybody to hear what Mom had to say.
Rita is very clear about her wishes.
I don't want to be resuscitated, and I don't want to have any extraordinary means to keep me alive. I want to be kept comfortable until I die.
And thanks to the conversation with her kids, no one is in the dark about that.
If I'm saying what I want before I die, I'm clearing the air. If they all know it, then there isn't any hard feelings when the time comes.
John and his siblings see the conversation as an exchange of gifts.
She gave us the gift of knowing, and we're going to give her the gift of being able to do what we can to make sure that we can honor that.
For Myra Christopher, making the case for the conversation is personal. In 1976, Myra's mom was diagnosed with a rare form of stomach cancer. She was only 51 at the time.
The experience of her illness and the experience of our family through that was really profound.
Juanita chose an aggressive course of treatment. Even so, doctors gave her a 50% chance of living 2 years.
My mom was a deeply religious woman. She would say to me in the midst of her illness that God had a plan and that we might never live to see it, but this was not evil. Good would come from this.
Although it was unheard of at the time and there were no hospices in Kansas City, Juanita wanted to live out her life at home, and Myra was determined to honor her wishes.
What we had to do to keep my mom at home was really pretty bizarre. I mean, we broke laws, we did all kinds of things to keep her at home.
While at home, she wanted to stay busy. In a request that was out of character, Juanita asked Myra to help her make a quilt.
She said, dying is really boring, and I've got to have something to do. So through this quilt, she was able to tell all these family stories, and she was able to talk about what's really important in life.
Her mother's death changed Myra's life.
I stood at her grave and said to myself, here's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I'm going to try to figure out how families can have similar experiences to ours, but it won't have to be so hard for them.
Having the conversation is hard, but understanding your loved one's values and wishes makes caring for them at the end of life much easier.
I think the single most important thing is to have the conversations with a loved one or someone who is actually going to be your healthcare surrogate who's going to make those decisions if you can't.
We should know what our loved ones want and simply be their agent.
Be willing to take the first step and to say, this would be a gift to me if you would just share with me what's important to you.
And it doesn't have to be that you have this gut-wrenching, heart-to-heart that day. It's a process.
sooner or later we're all going to die. And you're not doing this for yourself, you're doing it for everyone around you.
All of our days are numbered, and we would probably all do well to consider how we want to be spending our remaining days most congruent with our values and goals.